Come and fly away with me. Come and fly away with me. Come and fly away with me. Come and fly away with me.
Hi, I'm Laura,
And I'm Jessica,
and welcome to Nomads,
a podcast about international teaching, travel, and life.
We met in our undergrad music programs in Minnesota and are now both international music teachers.
I am currently teaching for a school in Panama.
And I'm teaching for a school in China.
At the time that we're recording this, we're both currently remote teaching from Minnesota.
But we both have tickets to move to our new post soon.
Since we pre-record our episodes, we are actually both likely already in our new countries while you're listening. I will be moving to Panama, or did move to Panama, on the 9th of November.
And I'll be moving to China on the 25th of October. If you haven't yet, don't forget to check out our Instagram and follow us at Nomads Podcast.
And since you're listening on YouTube, we would appreciate if you would subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell so you get alerted when we upload.
Last week, we discussed some of the top underrated travel destinations that we've been to.
And this week, we have another super special guest here with us, a soon-to-be music major and a former student of Laura's, Cheryl. Hey, Cheryl.
Hi, how you doing?
Cheryl,
Super.
Where in the world are you right now?
I am in San Manuel, Arizona, and it's hot as heck outside.
It's very opposite in Minnesota.
Yes. Another friend from Arizona.
So first, could you just give us like a quick overview of like how you met Laura and I guess a short, brief path on how you decided you wanted to be a music major?
Yeah, so my aunt used to teach at the school Laura applied to when she first moved here. And so it was funny, I was helping her set up for her class, my aunt trying to help with their class one time, and I was like, hey, heard there's a new music teacher. She's like, there is. I met her. You're going to like her. And I was like, okay. And, and then like some time passed and then school started. And it was really funny because I did not like her at first. And like, honestly. And then like, you know, over the course of the year, we really, I think at least we had a really good relationship built. And then, yeah, so that's basically how that went. And so I'm becoming a music teacher, educator, because it kind of runs in my family. Like my grandma has her master's in music. My aunt has her degree in music. So it's kind of carrying the family tradition, if you will.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think we've talked about this yet on the podcast, but do you want to talk about the history of music teachers at that school?
Yes. So the year Laura came to our school, that was quite interesting. So rewind to the last year, 2 years ago, my sophomore year of high school, my sophomore year, we went through 8 music teachers in half a semester. Most of them didn't even show up to their first day. So for the longest time, like the vice principal had to be our music teacher. And then it was chaotic. But then my Aunt Shauna became the choir teacher. And then I think the following year, Laura became the band teacher. And it was really funny because everybody was really like reluctant at first. We're all, we shouldn't trust her, but the feeling was mutual across the whole class.
It was really hard in the beginning. Like, obviously, I expected some general resistance just because you guys were kids and not everyone loves band, and sometimes you're forced to take these classes. But I was trying super hard, and sometimes I would just like be a complete goof in the front of the room because I didn't know if you guys were sleeping or just didn't care or like hated me or whatever. But eventually I broke through.
I think it was interesting too, because at least me and you, because I just turned 20 not that long ago, but our ages were really similar. So that also was kind of really weird.
Yeah, for any new teachers, it would be great if you didn't have to teach high school. I mean, it's kind of a cliche because obviously you can still be a really effective teacher and there's benefits to being in a close age range, but it's also makes it hard sometimes and you have to draw that line and make sure the kids don't see you as a friend.
Yeah, and I
So
think towards the end of our time together, it really got like that.
yeah, especially since
We're
I
like,
knew
you're
I was
leaving.
leaving. I'm like, let's just have some fun in school.
Okay, I know you talked like a little bit about it, but what was it like to be Laura's student? Like, what's like a normal day in Laura's class?
Well, I was an overachiever, so I kind of went above and beyond everybody else. I did a little bit more. And it was so funny because I was an aide for my aunt, and she made me really mad one day, and I almost betrayed her and became Laura's aide. And that would have started like a mini war between the two of them. But it was pretty, we'd just go in, do our warm-ups, and then we'd play a little music, we'd argue about it for a while, and then
That was how you saw the agenda. Okay. Well, we had to do this stupid journaling or whatever writing piece. I don't know. I think it's specific to Arizona, but every teacher had to like basically teach some component throughout the year that was going to be part of a standardized test. So like reading or writing or I guess math or something. So I don't know why I would do math, but the one of the admins suggested to me that I just do writing because I could make it somewhat applicable to music. So a lot of times we would listen to songs or watch a music video or something and then kind of respond to that. But I hated doing that because it took so much time out
we
of
hated doing that
band
too. If it
time.
makes you
Yeah,
feel
everyone
better.
hated it. And I just kept like saying, sorry, we have to do this. We're all being forced.
I remember too the one time where we started a story and we had to write until like the time was up, and then you'd have to pass the book to the next person.
Yeah, that was fun. I tried to make it fun, but the times that it was fun, it wasn't really helpful. So whatever. Oh, another question. I don't know if you noticed, maybe you guys were also really nervous, but like my first couple weeks, because that was like my first teaching job ever, I just felt really weird. And I was like standing in front of the room, like, oh, these kids are gonna listen to me and like they're gonna probably do whatever I say. And I have so much power right now. I don't know what to do.
Well, I think too, at least with me, because I had never had a legit teacher at that, like up to that point. Because you were my first like real certified teacher, and even then it was your first year, and like nobody up to that point had experience with the instruments that I had experience with.
Yeah.
So it was like more like the fear that I'm going to lose the only person in this entire school district who could teach me.
Yeah.
At least something. So I was like, I have to behave.
Also, you play violin, so I actually didn't really have that much experience. And we just kind of tried to make it a band instrument, and she played the flute parts, but that was a mess too.
Yes.
And I knew that you were smart enough to like, obviously, if it was written in a weird octave or if it was hard for the bowings, that you could just figure it out. So
Yeah, just transpose. Yeah.
but that was also hard because now I wish that I had some students like that who had some musical background and could kind of figure stuff out, because I'll just tell them like, figure it out, like you need to just do something, and they're like, I don't understand.
Years of practice. That's what that is. Not having a teacher. Because that's what all my like quote teachers used to do. They're like, well, I don't know how to play it, so go figure it out. So I'd go sit in a closet for hours and try to figure it out.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything that you can think of that like Laura did in specific that maybe like inspired you? I don't know, to continue thinking about teaching? I know you had it running in your family, but maybe something that Laura has done that like solidified that.
Yeah. So it was even funny because once I found out she was leaving, I wrote a Facebook post about it. But she was the only person to ever take on my case, because nobody up to that point had even experienced or even like held a violin in their hand. And so she's the only one who's like, we're gonna at least try. And so that was like, wow, like someone cares about the fact that I actually play the violin. So I thought that was really interesting.
Just for my own selfish reasons, were there any teaching strategies or like, because now you know a little bit since you've started your coursework, is there anything I did that was super different from other teachers that was actually helpful?
I'm so sorry. Hold on. My grandma's talking.
Okay.
Graham. She left. She's banging on the door. She's like, can I talk to you? And I was like, okay, can you repeat that? I'm so sorry.
Yeah. So because you've done some of your teacher coursework and obviously you've been in other classes too, was there anything I did as a teacher, like strategies or anything that were different but also helpful?
It wasn't so much strategy. It was more just the persistence. Like you never gave up. And I think because that's kind of hard to explain. But just because I didn't have that like knowledge of what the heck I was doing, so it was more like, sorry, I'm having a hard time wording this. Does this make any sense where I'm like getting with this?
I feel like what you're saying is that since I didn't really know what I was doing and also the students hadn't been in like formal band for a while, that it just kind of worked because we both just like kept doing whatever.
Yeah, we were learning together. And I think that kind of like a big part about teaching too is like you're not just teaching the students, but you're learning as well. So it kind of went hand in hand.
Yeah, definitely. Do you remember any of the weirder or like crazy stories of things that happened? Because I know one in particular that we really, well, two or three that we really got off topic and I just kind of let it happen.
Are we talking about in class or like field trip wise? Because we did go
Well, okay, you can just go off, go into everything. I guess start with the ones in class.
There was the B meme where we cannot say the word B without yelling and screaming B minor or B flat or B calm or B whatever.
Because why?
Because there was a B.
Because there was a B in the classroom and everyone was freaking out. And I was telling people, okay, we need to just calm down. We can be calm. And then I think it was Dominic was like, we need to be calm.
And Pacey would be like, you need to be calm. And then Nick would be all, we need to be something. And then we're all B minor. And it had gone for like several minutes.
Yes. Okay, what are the other ones? Go ahead and roast me.
Let's see. There was a field trip we went on the one time where Rick Stocking actually came with us. He was on your episode a few times.
Yes.
Like, was it 2 weeks ago? A week ago?
Yeah, but
Something
this will be
along that line.
pre-recorded, so it'll be
okay.
But yeah.
So and we ran down the street singing Smash Mouth, screaming from the top of our lungs up at U of A.
On our way to McDonald's.
Yep.
Of all the places we could have gone in Tucson, of course, the kids wanted to
picked
go to
McDonald's.
McDonald's. So we
Well,
walked to McDonald's.
Yep.
Which
That
for
was a pretty.
teachers, if you go on a field trip, fast food stops are a huge mistake. Obviously, you have to feed the kids, but some of them had never had this kind of free reign to just pick the food that they wanted, because I also included the junior high kids. So their parents had given them whatever, like $10 or $20, and they were just like, oh my gosh, I can get anything. I could just get 5 milkshakes. And I'm like, but should you?
Yeah, I think bringing the junior high was something different, something.
Yeah, I know a lot of people were kind of upset that I wanted to bring them, but you have to admit that it did make it a lot more fun.
It was, something else.
Yeah.
I think it added a little flavor to the trip, if you know what
It
I
was
mean.
memorable. Do you remember the scavenger hunt that I made?
Oh, is that the one where we had to sit there and run laps around the track until we were ready to throw up?
No, but I don't remember that.
I think that was my Aunt Shauna's. Because I think she did one too.
Yeah.
And she sat there making us run laps in groups. And some people were stupid enough to, instead of breaking up the track into 4, because there was 4 people to a group, everyone would sit there and run 4 laps.
Yeah. No, the one that I'm talking about is like, we had to look around the band room. You don't remember that? And I would give you
I vaguely remember it. I don't remember exactly what was in it.
I just think they were like really dumb clues, like, the suspended symbol, and there was a clue under there, and then you would go to somewhere else.
Oh, you know what? I remember, because I think that at that time the suspended symbol was on rubber bands, because my school could not afford to repair any of their instruments. So we
could. I just didn't want to spend precious money on something that could be solved with rubber bands.
So yeah, we fixed the symbol with rubber bands, and everyone kept like accidentally unhooking it from the rubber bands, and it was chaotic.
Yeah.
They like ripped the plaques off the wall looking for stuff.
I also remember one time that I bought you guys candy canes. I think it was after Christmas or something, because they were super cheap, and I got like 10 boxes of candy canes. And then when everyone came in the room, I would like scream a compliment at them and then give them candy
throw
cane.
a can of candy cane at them.
People got really afraid by that.
There was the time too whenever we had the compliment wall, and we had to sit there every day as like our group activity and compliment each other, and we just got to a point where everybody started roasting each other because compliments don't exist in band.
Yeah, or the compliments went too far to where they were kind of personal, and I was like, I should not have done this. Oh, good times.
There was also all the Bach memes.
Oh yeah, I talked about that with Rick's episode, because he was talking about using memes in class.
Oh yeah.
And I think that was fun. Maybe
That
you
was
guys
fun.
didn't think so, but
I don't want to take you guys away from like memory lane and like reminiscing. I was just like enjoying listening to all your stories. But I kind of want to like jump back a little bit, because I didn't know that you played violin, and it's really different to be like a more like band instrumental teacher and try to teach violin players. And I am in this position now, so I'm just wondering if maybe you have any advice or things that you think are helpful from somebody who doesn't maybe know the specific instrument that well to like help you learn better.
Well, I did all of my learning, and really it worked for me. It doesn't work for everyone, but so she gave us a practice log, and we had to document like to the minute we were practicing, and we were required to practice so many minutes per week. So that definitely helped keep track of what we were practicing. And again, I'm an overachiever, so we only had to practice like 200 minutes a week, and I would sit there practicing over 1,000 because I'm an overachiever. But I think too, just the persistence of you're not going to quit. And if you don't quit, you get extra credit. That helped me a lot because by the time we ended class, I had almost like a 200% in that class because of all the extra credit I racked up.
Yeah, I didn't teach Cheryl really anything about the violin because she'd kind of already taught herself the basics. So it's probably different from what you're experiencing, Jessica, for where the kids would have like logistical questions about their instrument. I was more just talking about the music, and I think that's where Cheryl was at in her learning anyway.
Yeah, I mean, all of my kids have played before too, so I'm not teaching any beginners. But sometimes, like in some respects, it's almost easier to teach a beginner because that's where I'm at on the instrument.
You're right.
You know, I'm not as far. So, and I mean, all the questions I've had, I have known the answers to, like the different like bowings and how to like change strings and stuff. I was just curious about if there were any like specific things. But yeah, I think having that like independence and tracking your own practice, I think can be really helpful for any type of ensemble.
Mm-hmm. Cheryl brought up the practice logs, and I just remembered something else that I did. Maybe other teachers or music people would like to consider, because a lot of kids, well, I was actually advised to make the practice log the majority part of their grade, because obviously that's how they're going to improve the most. And since they haven't had formal band for a number of years, they were going to need to improve really, really fast. So a lot of kids just didn't practice, as I'm sure every music teacher has experienced, but that really, really hurt the band, and it really, really hurt the kids, because once if they missed like 2 or 3 weeks where they didn't have any practice, then that would start to rack up. And the only way that they could make it up in their grade was to spend like double or triple the time each week. And that just really snowballed into a lot of kids having really, really, really low grades. And even if they did really well in other aspects of the class, it wouldn't affect their like letter grade as much. So I wanted to help them out a little bit for the kids who were trying, but they just couldn't make the practice time. So the second semester, I offered something called music outside the classroom. And so if they were doing anything related to our class and related to music, they could count those minutes for their practice time. So maybe they're just watching a YouTube video about their instrument, or reading a book about band class, or I even allowed certain movies that were like about music and kind of educational. I just wanted to get kids like interested in music and hopefully enjoying band, even if they didn't really know what was going on. And I think that helped a lot, but I don't think Cheryl did those things because she actually wanted to play her instrument. Jessica, there's like a weird rustling in the background of your sound.
Of mine? It
Yeah.
might just be my hair.
It might be.
I'll move. I will put my hair up. Maybe it's just my hair.
Okay, sorry.
Is it still happening?
I don't know. Say more things.
You don't know? Say more things. I'm talking. Is it still happening?
I don't think so, no.
Okay, well, let me know if it is.
Okay.
It's either my hair or my, like, sweater, but I think it was my hair. Yeah, probably. Okay. Laura mentioned that you started with an AA degree, and then you just moved to a 4-year college this year. Is that right?
I'll be moving in spring. I just sent in my university transfer applications, and so I have to work on my Fred Fox applications next.
Okay. Do you want to, because her and I have like no experience with this, maybe you just tell us some of the benefits and like why you decided to do it and the process of going about it?
Yeah. So my original plan was to go straight into university, and I had everything set up except for my Fred Fox, which is the School of Music up in Tucson. Application's done, and all I had to do was basically pay for it. And then, it's expensive. So I ended up going to community college, and that's where and because it's community college, they don't have like music programs per se, at least the one I go to. So I had to start with the Associate of Arts of Elementary Education and then transfer into the music department at the university. And it basically just starts you off learning like kind of some theories about like human development, I guess, and learning about some people and important people, kind of how to deal with like special needs kids, stuff like that. And then like what did I just learn about? I don't even remember.
Well, you were
Oh, go ahead, Laura.
sorry. You were telling me and sending me some of your homework stuff earlier. You were talking about like certain educational philosophers and like different classic strategies, which is something that we do in a 4-year too. It's just typically in a different part of your like coursework.
Okay. Yeah, because we've been learning a lot of like more like the law side of education versus like the relational part of education, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's more like the technicalities, and then whenever you transfer, you learn more of the relational, like actual in class, what and what not to do.
Yeah, you might also not learn a lot about that. Just letting you know, like, I don't know. I feel like I learned the most from actually being in a classroom and having that experience. So you'll probably get more out of that.
Well, yeah, even when you took me to those 2 classes and you're like, you need to make a lesson plan. And I was like, well, then.
Yeah, fun fact. So I saw that like Cheryl needed to be challenged more and she was interested in teaching music. And so I would have really liked if I had some kind of experience in high school to like see what that would be like and kind of experience that opportunity. So I asked the admin if I could just bring Cheryl to one of my classes for like the younger kids. So the youngest age I taught with was 5th grade at the time. And so she had to fill out some paperwork and I had to fill out some paperwork. And then I told her like where they were at with band and stuff. And then I asked her, like, I kind of gave her some guidance, like, oh, we need a lesson that's about Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, but obviously for 5th graders. So can you like come up with something that you want to do? And we talked about like how much she would like to do and what I should do. And it was fun to have an assistant, especially when I was almost an assistant like a year ago to that day, but also to give her a chance to just see what that was like. So I don't know. I thought it was fun.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, I remember I taught the kids about the violin because I never had that growing up. It was kind of like, okay, cool, because I gypped myself so many years of music lessons because I refused to do it when I was little. And so I was like, I'll just pick the hardest instrument to learn and not have a teacher to do it. So I was like, I'm going to teach them about the violin. And they were actually really interested in it. So I thought that was interesting. I was hoping it was genuine at least, and they weren't just like.
Yeah, I think it was.
I was just going to say, actually, at my last school in Almaty, I think when at least for choir, when the kids get to their like 2nd year, they're actually supposed to teach a lesson. So I had some of my kids come in and teach lessons to like younger grades in like general music, or I would have them teach to like the middle school choir and stuff. And I think it was a really valuable experience for them. And even some of my kids, when the curriculum changed and that wasn't there, I still would have them like lead warm-ups or do different things. And I think especially those kids that are at that level or that are interested in pursuing it like longer term, it can be really powerful.
Yeah, that's also pro tip, something that you can try with either students that have behavior problems or students that need to be challenged. Like in any classroom, you can give them some leadership or say like, you're going to run the warm up or you're going to run the bell work or whatever like aspect of class. And sometimes that can help with whatever they're dealing with.
Oh yeah, I definitely, I mean, I did it with my kids that were stronger musically, but for my like elementary kids, I would have some of the kids that were like you just mentioned, like harder behaviorally. I would give them like a job or something, and it can be super small. It could be like, you need to turn off the lights when the projector's on and turn it back on. It doesn't matter, but then it gets them more engaged and can kind of help with it too, having a leadership role.
Yeah, so I think we kind of talked about why you wanted to be a music major, but what kind of things maybe you've learned now did you not know about being a music major that you wish you had known, or something that you learned that's kind of changed your outlook on it?
I think I never, like, I knew it, but I didn't like know it, that music is actually really competitive. And it kind of leaves me conflicted at times, because not having that formal training, that when I go to do my auditions, most of the people in there have had formal training of some kind. And I've never had any paid formal training. So it's like, you're almost doubting your abilities. And so I think that's just kind of what irks me a little bit, is this not having that formal training.
Yeah, I don't think it's necessarily a detriment, because if you still have the ability, like if you can play the same level of piece that someone else who was formally trained, you actually learned more because you had to figure out how to get to that point and how to solve your own problems, instead of someone just telling you, oh, do this or change your strings or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, Laura, I don't know if you want to just go into some of this other stuff,
Sure.
or what's your thoughts? Because Cheryl, you haven't started like that 4-year like music ed degree yet. So now I feel like this is gonna just scare you if we list all these things that like
Okay.
were like
Lay it
things
on
I
me.
wish I knew.
We could turn it into like advice for you, because you're kind of a prospective student but kind of a current student, and I don't know if you want to like ask us questions or something like that. I don't know.
Maybe we should open it up for you to ask us questions before we just like lay on just like
Sure.
all this.
My thing is saying my connection's unstable, so I'm trying to
Okay.
get it into a location where I don't actually have to leave the bedroom and the bed. Okay. Does it sound weird? Do I sound weird?
It sounds fine, a little bit better than before.
Okay, cool. Questions. That's the one part I did not prepare today.
That's okay. Like, what are you worried about for school, and like, what do you need help with?
Well, I think it's just more so like, I know I'm my own worst enemy. So getting over the mental block of I can't do this. Because I perform a lot outside of school.
Mhm.
So even just doing that, I'm like, this isn't working, this doesn't sound good, this isn't this. And it's really just, I have to figure out on my own how to get over my own mental blocks of performing and even teaching. Because for the longest time, I've had a fear of public speaking. So I'm like, why not take a career around it?
Well, I really don't like public speaking or giving presentations in front of like my peers or my coworkers, but teaching is different because it's something that you're the expert in this field. Not that like we're all learning together, and of course there are things I don't know, but it's content that I know really well, and I'm teaching students something that I care about, that I know really well, and usually with music too, that they're at least a little bit interested in. So I don't know, and you're teaching kids, so it's not on the same field to me as like public speaking, because if I had to teach like PD or something, that would be completely different to me than my daily routine.
So what do you know about your music program and like what kind of things you'll be studying? Like, do you know what your first semester of classes would look like, or what kind of ensembles you'd be interested in?
I was kind of looking through it the other day when doing my application. I am taking a vocal emphasis, which is kind of like off track of the whole violin thing, but just because I know I'll have an easier time managing that, because that's kind of my main field, I guess you can say. But I know it's going to be a lot of, I think the first semester, if I remember correctly, is more of like the educational emphasis with a few music theory classes here and there. And I think there's one like vocal ensemble thing for the first semester. And then the more you go, the more education is kind of put on the back burner and the music part is emphasized.
Yeah, that's what we were going to talk about a little bit, is like basically you will have almost a double major because half of your coursework will be strictly education. You've probably already done a lot of that. And then the other half is music. And there's not a lot of courses that specifically overlap that.
Right. And then you also have like your specific music education classes. So you're kind of doing like three things, or in three worlds.
Yeah.
On top of your gen eds. But you'll have that done, right, when you get there. So that's huge, to be able to just focus on like your content.
Yeah, that's partially why too I went to community, because I can pay like less than half of what it like costs to do my generals up at the university.
Yeah. And it will be... Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, because like living in San Manuel, there's not much opportunity to make a lot of money and like do here. So you kind of have to really be wise with our resources.
Yeah. It'll be really fun to have those education classes though, because you'll be around all these other students that are looking to be different kinds of teachers. And that's kind of what it's like to work at a school, obviously, because like you'll just be, oh, what are you doing about this student? Or like if they're placed at the same school as you, then you can talk about like the schedule or like something logistical about the building or like different stuff like that.
Okay. I guess I'll just talk more things. We kind of mentioned like already that it's like classes, and the big thing for music majors is like all your ensembles are usually only like 1 credit, but they take like 4 or 5 days or 4 or 5 hours a week. So you're signed up for all these ensembles that you're getting almost no credit for, and sometimes even 0 credit, or lessons for like 0 credits. So your schedule gets really busy really fast, just from a few classes. So that's something, I don't know, I guess I didn't realize when I was going to be a music major. I knew I would have to take theory and all of this, but I didn't realize like the sheer amount of classes that went into being a music educator.
Yeah. If you have an advisor that is outside of the music department, like especially when you're an incoming freshman, they will just be like, oh, 18 credits is the max. So that'll be like, 3 or 4 classes, but that's not what it would be for a music major. So they don't really understand that.
Yeah. And something I think that I think too is good is to make sure you're meeting with like your advisor or specifically a music advisor, because sometimes your classes that you need to take are not offered every semester or every year even. So really making sure you have like your plan locked down, because it can be very easy to have to stay an extra semester for like one class. And that's happened to like several people I know because of them transferring, or they had an advisor that wasn't a music like professor, so they didn't know it wasn't offered. So yeah, being diligent about that I think is important.
Yeah, sometimes they'll change stuff too. And like, I just remember sitting down in my dorm or like my apartment like twice a year and looking at the course articulation and just making sure like, okay, if I take these classes, then I'll have like this much left, and always making sure that I was on the right path. Because if you even miss like one class in the sequence, it can really throw things off.
Right. And there's so many like prereqs. So like, yeah, for sure. Either missing something or, I mean, then it can be a snowball.
Yeah.
I just feel bad that we're just like saying all of these hard
Like, hi,
things.
your life is gonna suck. Here we go.
No. It's super fun. I guess one thing that I wrote on this list that I think is kind of fun is like literally all of my friends from college I knew through music, and I'm still friends with them. And even if they weren't music education majors, I met them through like choir or band or marching band. And I don't know, like music friendships are just like the best friendships because you spend so much time together. So that's a positive. You
Yeah.
get some lifelong friends that are really interested in the same things as you are.
Yeah, if you can, because I know that like being in community college, it's kind of a different vibe where you'll just like go to your class and then go home, and you don't really have this like, it's kind of ironic because you kind of don't have a community in community college a lot of times because the kids just don't like stick around like the building or anything. But try as much as you can to like actually put yourself in that environment and don't just like seclude yourself even when it's stressful and stuff.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Should I just keep going down? I just feel bad, like just literally like listing off things.
Do you have
It's
any more
okay.
questions or anything, Cheryl?
Off the top of my head, no.
Okay, well,
I'll
pop
I'll
in
let you know if I
it.
think of one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, there's a couple other ones, so I guess we can talk about it. But again, something like I didn't realize being like I want to be a music education major is like how much solo performing I'd have to do. Like I knew I was going to be in my ensembles and perform with them, but I didn't realize the sheer amount of like I said, solo performance I would have to do. And every semester at our school, they're called juries. Some schools call them different things, but it's kind of like your recital or your culmination of your semester of your solo practice. So that's something I didn't know about, but you said you have a lot of experience doing like performances, so that shouldn't be too crazy for you.
This is going to be really interesting because it's my first time. When I go to do my audition, it's going to be my first time with an accompaniment, words.
Yeah.
A person to play for me.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be really interesting.
Is this someone you've rehearsed with, or they just have a person there?
I will not know who it is.
Usually, though, honestly, I like doing solo stuff with accompanists because they'll follow you. So like you forget the words, they'll jump to the part of the song that you're in, or like you do something weird with like tempo and they'll follow you. So, and I'm sure if they have somebody that they pick for auditions, that they're someone who's going to be really good about that and be sensitive to your playing.
They'll make you look good.
Yeah. Yeah, they're the real MVPs. They're like your hype man. Like when you're doing a solo by yourself, you're not really by yourself because you got your main man back there on the piano.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, I was gonna say something else. What were we talking about before? I forgot.
I don't know. Friends, about juries.
Oh, yes. The performing all the time. This is kind of, I don't know. It's weird to me. Like, I'm glad that we had to do that, but we as teachers don't actively use a lot of the things that we did in those last 2 years of music training. Like, okay, theory 4, it was super interesting to me. I love music theory, but I was kind of sad because I knew when I graduated, I wasn't going to look back at that stuff or actively use it probably ever again unless I went out of my way to do it. So it's just interesting how you have to build such a high level of knowledge, especially to be a music teacher when you won't really use that knowledge very often.
Right. And with history too. Of course it's important, and I'll teach my kids, especially like older kids, about music history or specific composers, but there's just so many names and so much all jammed in that, yeah, and it's definitely not something I use every day as a teacher.
Yeah. You also said here that it's hard to study something that you really like and it can be easy to get burnt out. And I definitely felt that in like the first couple years because I started listening to music differently because I understood like how it was written and stuff. And I got really mad and I wished that I at the time like didn't have that knowledge anymore because it ruined some of the songs that I liked. And it ruined the way that I looked at some bands because I knew that they weren't actually as talented as I thought they were, or they had just ripped something from like a classical music thing or something. So that was hard for me to go through.
Yeah, something that has helped me with that, especially like now as a teacher, is finding time to do music in a context that's for me and is not part of my job.
Yeah.
Or in the case of college, that's not part of your coursework, because you can get in the mindset of just practicing your concert music and solo music and not taking time to do music for the purpose of music and the love of it. So like I will do things like karaoke, or I will just get out a ukulele and play super simple songs and like sing to myself.
Yeah.
So I think just taking that time away from coursework or teaching to like remember why you love music, because it can get easy to be burned out on something when you're doing it all the time and it's like your whole life.
Yeah. And it's like not the stuff that you studied for hours and cried in your room because you didn't understand. It's like, oh, I like playing ukulele because it's easy and I can just pick it up and play any song that I want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That reminds me of that one piece you made me do whenever you had us do solo concerts.
Yeah.
And I remember doing that piece and I cried for like hours one time.
No.
And then I went to go do the performance and I got about a quarter of it done and I said I wasn't doing it no more.
Well, I think it was good
stopped.
for you to even try that, you know, to try something that was difficult. I'm sorry that it made you cry though.
That's okay. I needed it. I probably needed it.
The last thing I put on this list, I'm sure there are more things, but is that usually all of the first year music classes, like theory or history, are at 8 a.m. And I feel like they do it on purpose to like weed you out, like get rid of the weak, which it sounds crazy that like, oh, 8 a.m. because in high school, you go to school at 8 a.m., but it's so much different and more focused, I feel like, needed when you're doing these music classes at 8 a.m. So it is something that I didn't know, and it is like everywhere because I went to 2 colleges and both of them had, you know, their first year classes at like 8 a.m.
Well, I start work at 6 o'clock in the morning, so I don't think that'll
Wow.
be an issue.
You'll be wide awake.
Yeah, I don't see that being much of an issue.
I also think they do that for scheduling purposes. So like you can have labs or stuff like later on. But then
Yeah.
they also go and mess up your night schedule because we could almost never take any night classes because we were supposed to go to a certain number of concerts. But then there were like
Yeah.
some classes for teaching, like we had to take drug education, and that was a night class. So it's like, how am I supposed to do everything that you're literally forcing me to do?
Well, and then they usually put the ensembles like smack dab in the middle of the day.
Yep.
They're either at like noon or they're like right after lunch. So it does make it really hard to get in like gen eds or like music, or not music, regular education classes.
Yeah.
If you're not careful. But I think it's going to be a huge advantage for you to have some of that stuff out of the way.
Yeah.
Like, I'm kind of jealous. Not kind of, I am jealous that you not have to deal with that stuff.
Yeah. Because I wouldn't usually go home in between anything. Like I would leave sometimes at 7:30, like you said, for the 8 a.m. classes, and then probably bring my lunch or buy something on campus. And then I wouldn't get home until like after my night class or after ensemble. So that could be anywhere from like an 8 to 12-hour day of being at school. And that can be really exhausting.
Oh yeah, I never went home during the day. I know like some other majors will they'll have like 1 or 2 classes a day. They just go to school and like come home. No, like as a music major, just because of the way the classes are scheduled, you're just there for like a full day.
Mm-hmm. And then working too. I mean, if you're actually having a part-time job outside of that, it gets real crazy.
Yeah, it really can.
Well, now that we've depressed you, do you have any other questions or concerns?
I mean, it is busy, and we've talked about these like scary things. It is busy and it is a lot of work, but you get to do something that you love like every day. And like I mentioned too, like with people that feel the same way as you. So it's just awesome, and it's such a community, and it's really great.
It was one of my favorite times. Like I hope I get something else in my life later on that's just like being around a bunch of people that I like all day, that we can all talk about the same thing at the same level. Like now, I mean, who am I going to meet on the street that understands music theory or like something complicated like that, or like something about your instrument, but everyone knows it when you're in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if we don't have anything else.
I know. We're doing a lot of like sitting and waiting for someone else to talk today. It's okay.
I'm also super, super tired. So I'm trying to come up with anything else, but I just can't.
Okay, I just got off of work.
Yeah.
So I'm tired too.
Oh, are you still working at the dog place right now?
I am. Yes, my boss has decided we're going to start doing 40 dogs a day.
Oh gosh, how's that going?
Horrible.
Oh no.
Oh no.
It is so chaotic. Like I love them, but I don't like people. So
does it make
he moved me to reception.
Does it make you want your own pets more or less?
My dogs are angels. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
It's funny because I have actually developed relationships with some of these dogs. So it's like, I'm like, oh, I want to take you home with me. And I can't.
Of course.
But man, some of them, like I saw someone squared up with the lady today because she was rude.
Oh no.
She's an old lady, but it doesn't mean I wouldn't like pop her in the mouth.
Oh gosh.
Wow, lay it down.
I've become a rather violent person since working reception. Like my tolerance for rude people has come like way down.
Yeah,
Well,
I think
as
we're all
Laura
going through
talks
that.
about Laura, you talked about in a previous episode, that having those customer service skills are really helpful as a teacher because kids will test you. Kids are ruthless. I mean, obviously, I love my children. They're wonderful, but they'll test you.
And parents.
Oh, and parents.
Other teachers and admins sometimes. Like, everyone can come at you, especially if you're having, like, a bad week or something. And you're just like, I forgot how to be nice to people.
Trying to make it fun. Okay. Yeah, so this lady called the other day and she's like, I'm bringing my dog in Thursday. And I was like, no, you're not. But I have to see her face on Saturday, and if she's rude to me, I'm telling her she can't come back. Like, she's like that much of a people.
Oh boy.
She is so mean. I don't like her.
Well, you cannot tell your students don't come back.
You actually?
Well, it takes a lot of paperwork of extreme circumstances to be able to actually have them not come back.
We had an interesting situation at certain schools.
Oh, no.
Where the admin really wanted to protect band and they wanted me to stick around. So they said, if a kid doesn't want to be there, we will find another place for them to go. And that's really nice because sometimes if you're an elective teacher, like the schedules can get weird. Like we had to take Spanish in high school or something. So that meant that you couldn't take other electives because of just like the time that the classes were. So it was really nice that the admin were like, okay, if someone was just like, no one's going to get thrown into band if they don't want to be. So that was really nice. But I could say, then you will leave and I will not see you again.
Well, yeah, there are circumstances with electives where you can have kids move to other classes. But generally speaking, if you get a class list, especially if you're teaching general music, that's a required class, you can't just peace out.
I can still say I don't want to see you again, but
well, you can
probably
say
shouldn't.
It doesn't make it happen.
Anyway, this has been a joy, but we're running out of time. Also, we're running out of ideas. Thank you, Cheryl, for joining us this week.
If anyone listening has questions or suggestions, as always, the best place to let us know is YouTube comments or our Instagram page at Nomads Podcast.
On there, we post extra clips, pictures, and reminders about upcoming episodes.
We only have 2 more episodes after this one left this season because we're professionals who have seasons.
Yes.
Then we'll take a break for the holidays.
It's not just because we want a break. It's because we're professionals and we're labeling it as a hiatus. So then after that, we will be back at it. We already have some ideas of what we want to do for season 2, which will be in early 2021. And it will be amazing, the start of a glorious year. So thanks for listening from wherever in the world you are.
And we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Say bye, Cheryl.
Bye.
Something's gonna break.